privilege and a joy to be here with my fellow makers of Women on Walls, Pauric Dempsey, Head of Communications at the Royal Irish Academy, Blaise Smith, artist, and Vera, Klute, artist. Well, what a difference a year makes. It really is incredible to think that on this day, on this stage, a year ago, we announced an open call to artists. I have to say that this absolutely has been my favourite project and collaboration at my time at Accenture. And I think it's a wonderful story of what happens actually when you speak up. People often listen and you can bring people with you and indeed make history. Pauric, I remember very well that day that Michelle spoke about when we had our first meeting, and you offered to give me a tour of the Academy, your beautiful institution, and I voiced out loud, there are no women on the walls, but I doubt I was the first person to say that to you. What struck a chord this time?
Well, when you said it to me, I was annoyed with myself because I'd known this forever. You know the way you have these to-do lists, and there's always something that transfers from to-do lists? Well, this had transferred on my to-do list for some time. And I'd forgotten, you know, I've been in the Academy 20 years, I was very aware of it, and first impressions matter, and I knew that, and I hadn't done something about it. And the Academy, the president of the Academy is a woman, the CEO is a woman, the head of HR is a woman, so it doesn't reflect the Academy. And Michelle talked about impressions, and it didn't reflect what the Academy is about. Eithne set me the challenge, and so I had to think about something, and what could we do, you know? And as with all good ideas come quickly, and they're very, very simple. And I knew that this generation of female scientists are outstanding. They are an outstanding generation, probably the most outstanding generation of all time in terms of their achievement in science. And so I knew we wanted to mark that. We wanted to mark that range of achievement in throughout the sciences. So there was a generation that we wanted to mark. It's also important, role models are important to Accenture, role models are important to the Academy. We wanted to show the scientists at the height of their powers. Most science is done in people's careers in their 30s or 40s. In fact, for mathematicians, most great mathematicians do their work before their 40s. So we wanted those role models to be young. And the ERC, the European Research Council, grant-aided 8 female scientists between 2012 and 2015, and they're the ones we chose. Cross the disciplines, great role models, and then the genius idea, which Eithne came up with, was giving it the title, Women on Walls.
I don't know about that, but thank you, Pauric. And what a wonderful example of responding to a challenge, I suppose, somebody set you, and being bold and being brave and pitching to us, and how grateful we are.
Easiest pitch ever. Easiest and fastest pitch response either. Email went out, it was back pretty quick, and a great and very positive response.
That's right, I remember that very well. Vera, what caught your eye about this particular commission?
Well, I'm always interested in portrait commissions, so this was no different. And for me, the most important thing is an interesting face. And I saw the photos of the 4 women, and I thought they had great faces, so I thought they would make great paintings. And I'm interested in science, so it just appealed to me. Yeah. And obviously, doing a commission for the Royal Irish Academy is quite a privilege, so it's a great collection to get into.
But you had a significant challenge. In this commission, you couldn't meet your subjects. How did you overcome that? That must have been really challenging. Did you have to do a lot of research?
It's quite unusual, because usually I've worked from photographs before, but usually I'd meet the people to get an idea what they like, and this wasn't possible. And also they lived a few decades ago when no one was really taking as many photographs, so it was a bit of a shock, because there was few photographs, and in one case there was only one blurry photograph. So it was difficult, and I went around the libraries and sort of their workplaces to find more material, and it was hard. And what helped a lot was after I had done the initial drawings, we got involved with the families and friends to get some feedback, and then also they started sending some family photographs. Which was additional material, and also it kind of completed the picture, because the initial photographs I was given was sort of work photos from conferences and that sort of thing, and now I was getting photos from family holidays, and it kind of, for me, when I do a portrait, it needs to be a complete picture, so that really helped. And it was a huge encouragement to see how important it was to the families to get this done.
And I'm sure it was very important to the families of these beautiful, the subjects in these beautiful paintings that Vera painted, because so many of them were passed over for promotion for so long, even though they were experts and brilliant academics in their field. Blaise, congratulations on your wonderful group portrait.
Thanks.
The painting has got a lot of acclaim already. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day saying that the women look like the Irish Avengers, which I thought was great. And Christina Leach, the art critic, was suggesting that they are, a gang that any ambitious young woman would like to hang out with. And I think that's what's one of the things that's so wonderful about this group portrait is that the women are people whom you could identify with. You look at them and you'd say, that could be me or that could be my sister. But how did you come up with the composition to create from a blank canvas with these 8 wonderful women and this just beautiful composition? Tell us about that.
Well, I remember in my initial pitch, you asked for drawings. I didn't give you a drawing. I said, I really have to meet them.
Yeah.
And because a portrait is a collaborative process, and really, you would split the project into 2 parts to do the posthumous portraits of the 4 scientists, but I didn't go for that one. I wanted to meet people. That's the whole thing. It's a wonderful interaction. So anyway, I met them, and I thought they might be in lab coats, and they said, no, we never work in lab coats. And so we just, I let them really feed into me. And one of them said to me, well, I said, I suppose you should hold something maybe, or have something about what you do. And one of them said, well, I'd like to hold the sun, was the first thing she said. I was going, okay, well, that kind of opens it wide open then into a sort of a surreal thing. But it was great that she said that, because I went, okay. So, Lydia Lynch in the middle there is holding, I think it's a cancer cell and a killer T cell on her arm, so there's really big stuff and small stuff, and somebody, a heart is hovering in front of her hands, so it allowed me to kind of really get a bit weird. But also then the other thing was, when I talked to them first, I showed them pictures by, say, Annie Leibovitz, and I'm going to do this now. You know the way Annie Leibovitz's photographs, there's always these people draped around like this? Particularly the photographs of women. And I said, we can't really have that. So we can't, in fact, shouldn't really have anybody, like a society portrait from 1895, where the women are in fabulous dresses, but kind of draped around the place like furniture. So anyway, I said, we really can't have anybody sitting down. We need to, it's more assertive to be standing. So, and the other thing that created was they're all equal, and also there's kind of just enough space between them all, which is all very carefully organized by me behind the scenes, really, to make them all independent, strong individuals. As one of them said, we look like we can make a difference. And I was going, yeah, it's like Avengers Assemble. So, there's that kind of superhero thing going on. They've all got their special power, So, it was a dream project for me to do, frankly, and it was great to have these amazingly interesting people in the studio. I just tee them up and go, what do you do? And I get a fantastic lecture for an hour, brilliant.
And so true, and congratulations, and the composition is wonderful. But it is important to have that opportunity to meet the subjects, and that's one of the things that we can all do tomorrow night. And RT1 is to look at the documentary. Let's meet one of the scientists now.
I'm Lydia Lynch. I'm from Walkinstown in Dublin, and I'm an immunologist. I just loved the whole idea that we have this immune system in our bodies that we can use to protect us from cancer and viruses, and I just fell in love with immunology. Going to college in the first place was a bit of a challenge. I had a baby when I was 16. I was a single teenage mother. I had to get many part-time jobs during college, babysitters, childminders, but I had a really nice group of friends and neighbours and everybody that helped me. After getting to college and studying and getting the degree, I then chose to do a PhD. Once in, it wasn't hard because I just loved it. To me, it's like a hobby, and I can't believe I have this job. I've never found being a woman to be an obstacle. If anything, it's an advantage. Obviously, men and women are equal, but they think differently sometimes, and so it's only an advantage to have an equal distribution of men and women in science. So I am pretty proud that I was able to go to college, that I was able to get a PhD in immunology, that we ended up in Harvard with my whole family, that they got to live and go to school in Boston. It's just been a brilliant journey.
Blaise, when we were, very briefly, because like everybody this morning, unfortunately, we're very tight on time, but when we were chatting during the week, you told me you were surprised to get this commission. Why was that?
Several times in the last few years, I was elected to the RHA, the Royal Hibernian Academy. I was amazed because there's a policy to have equal women members there by 2025 or something. This was the same. I said, well, this is definitely going to go to a woman, so I'll just throw in my application and see how we go. I recently did a portrait for the Abbey Theatre of Bernard Farrell. That was awkward because it was the same time that the, what's it called? The
Waking the Feminists.
Waking the Feminists was going on. So a man painting a man, and so really, I was really surprised to get this. But what I will say, having heard everybody talking this morning, you've got to bring the men with you, because if it's just got to be fair.
Yeah.
So I was really delighted, as I said, to get this, but also kind of surprised. I was thinking, so many times I've wished I was a woman in the last 5 years, because it would just be less awkward.
Should have been a woman. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we have very much, I suppose, been very considerate about in a lot of the things that we do, both at the Academy, both in the Academy, I know you are, and at Accenture, to have balance in what we do. You might notice that we have a balance in our panel this morning, and we chose a male and a female artist because it's about all of us, right? In relation to role models, Vera, you tell a lovely story in the documentary about how your daughter surprised you in relation to when you were on a plane, I think, one day.
She surprised me, not in a good way. We were just waiting on a plane, and she's 5 years old, so I was explaining to her how she can recognise the pilot by looking at the golden stripes on the sleeve. And as the pilot walked past, she was shouting, "Oh, but it's a girl!" And I was a bit embarrassed, but I was more so shocked because I had no idea where that came from. I thought I would have brought her up differently. But it just goes to show that it's all around us, and that it's, if even a 5-year-old has those ideas in her head, then there's something wrong. Absolutely. And well, hopefully projects like this will change that.
Indeed. It's a great story because the objective of Women on Walls was to inspire the next generation. Pauric, what have we done to an institution like the Royal Irish Academy, and what would you like people to do going forward?
Well, I think Women on Walls has made people think. Not least in the Academy. Just having the paintings in the building changes the mood in the building. It is that thing, are we welcoming? And what I would say is that all institutions need to be welcoming. And if the only portraits you see are men looking down at you, well, as a woman, will a woman be welcome in the Academy? So it's very important to encourage people to think about these things. I'd like to see Women on Walls become a national movement. I'd like to see other institutions take it up. It's a very simple idea. If there's a legacy from the centenary of 1916, wouldn't it be great if Women on Walls became a national movement and other institutions took it up and ran with it? That would be great.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard Pauric there as a call out. This isn't about Accenture or the Royal Irish Academy. This is about all of us. And before I wrap up, I just would like to thank in particular Andrew Hetherington and Margarita Vasquez of Business to Arts, who held our hand so well throughout the commissioning process. And maybe just to pass on as a communications professional how I'm very proud of Accenture's commitment to supporting the arts. It's a long-standing commitment, but also our interest in commissioning new work. And I have found that I think this campaign and project is a great example of the return on investment that you can derive from supporting artists and how well art actually can tell a story and break through barriers and areas that perhaps no other means can. So thank you so much to Pauric Dempsey, to Blaise Smith and to Vera, Klute, who joined me on the panel today. And do tune in RTE1 tomorrow night at 10:15 to find out more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.